Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Crystal Milani on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Nebraska, where I have a grandpa that lives down there and a grandma. And, I've been to Omaha, probably at least a couple dozen times in my life. And we were just talking about it. So it's great to have someone from an area that I'm very familiar with on the podcast. And she's on here to share basically her health and fitness journey and talk all things health and fitness. I'm going to be honest. No, wait, we've actually had one other guest from Nebraska on because I've been trying to get a guest from all 50 states. So yeah, Nebraska, this is going to be a second guest from there. And I think I've only had Alaska and I think Alabama. No, some other state down south that I haven't had on. So we're getting close to that. But like I said, Crystal's our current guest. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I got to ask first of all, because I love to torture myself. What is the weather like in Nebraska today?
Well, right now it's sunny and there's like absolutely no clouds out in the sky whatsoever. So, and I think right now it's probably about like 50-ish degrees or so. So it's actually been really nice compared to last year.
Yeah, which is funny because it's going to be like 60 degrees here. And normally, when I call my grandpa and ask him what the weather's like, they usually get about 10 degrees warmer in Lincoln than they do, or in Omaha than they do all the way up here in Minnesota. So hey, it's a nice day, and after I'm done with my podcast, I'm gonna have to find something to do outside because it's the first time that it's reached that. But before I depress everyone that's still suffering from winter, I mean, I have a lot of Canadian guests that I've had on, so I don't want to make their audience a little too depressed. Crystal, why don't you give us your backstory and what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're currently at right now?
Yeah, so all right. So it pretty much all started back in 2007 when I started getting into lifting. And actually, the person that I was dating at the time, he was huge into the whole bodybuilding thing. He knew, all about protein, pre-workout drinks, how much you should be eating, all this stuff. And I absolutely had no idea. And I was like, that's what I need. Like I need, I need some intel on that. Um, so yeah, so we actually okay, well, to kind of backtrack to that, I did a little bit of boxing for about 9 months. And uh in order for me to get a little bit more strength, my coach at the time was like, well, you need to at least start going into the gym and doing a little bit of weight training. I'm like, I could do that, because I've been an athlete for pretty much, since I was like 6 years old and up. So I've been into basketball. Basketball is actually one of my favorite sports. Volleyball, track, a little bit of golf. Did some bowling with my dad. If whatever. We were in a bowling league together as a father daughter sort of thing. But yeah. So anyway, so I started to do a little bit of weight training when I was doing the boxing thing. And then unfortunately, he moved to Chicago. It's like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I guess I could just still keep going into the gym and weight train. And I had no clue what I was doing. I was doing like some lat pull downs, some bicep curls, all the bro stuff. Because that's all I knew. I was like, just looking at other people and seeing what they were doing. I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess I could do a little bit of whatever he's doing over there. Um, so yeah. So anyway, so the guy that I started dating back in 2007, he started getting me onto his weight training regimen, which was we were training at least 5 to 6 times a week. And he was like, you need to group your body parts, so your chest, chest one day, legs one day, so on and so forth. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that makes sense. And one of the problems that I had was I had and I still kind of do, but I have just a really, really high metabolism. And at the time, I think I was only eating like 2 or 3 meals a day. And he's like, you need to be eating more. I'm like, well, how much more do I need to eat? And he's like, you need to be eating at least like 5 to 6 meals a day. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was just like trying to shove food into my face and still trying to do weight train. And at the time I was still, going to college and I had a part-time job. So like just trying to juggle all those things together. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to eat like 5 to 6 times a day. I was like, this is insane. He's like, well, if you want to see any sort of results, he's like, you need to get your calorie intake up there. I'm like, ugh, all right. So, so, I was eating, drinking all the protein shakes, just following whatever he was doing. And it literally took me 2 years before I started seeing any sort of muscle gain. And I think one day I flexed my bicep. I'm like, oh my God, like, look at this. Like, this is awesome. He's like, I know that you just need to keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, all right. And so then someone approached me like right around that time when I was able to like lift heavier, and was able to do like supersets, all that fun stuff. And someone came up to me at the gym and they're like, hey, do you compete? And then I go, compete in what? And I was like, what do you I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, bodybuilding. I'm like, no. I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so they kind of talked to me about it, and they said like they knew some friends that competed in like figure, and they started listing off all these different categories. Um and I was like, huh, that's interesting. I was like, that sounds like something that would be kind of fun. Well, so in 2011, finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buckle down, get my diet in check. My he was actually my husband at the time. He kind of helped me out with like the whole prep and dieting thing and whatever. And so we, had a game plan to just kind of start off at like 18 weeks out from the show that I wanted to do, like in November 2011. And yeah, and it was painful, just like, trying to train, and then you're cutting at the same time, but you don't want to like lose too much. And so this was all new to me. I had, again, like, and this was the first time he had ever trained anyone, through a prep. So, we were both kind of guinea pigs at that time. And we had like a few friends that were kind of helping us out with like water intake and that sort of thing too. But for the most part, we were just doing it all by ourselves. And so then the day of the show came, and I get there, and I'm like looking at everyone, and everyone's shredded and like, pumping weight. I'm like, should I be doing that? Or I don't I don't know. Like, what should I be doing? And so luckily one of my friends, she was doing the same show that I was doing. And she just like, you only want to pump like right before you get up on stage because you want to look full. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And went through the motions. I did a show through an organization where they have you do T walks first. And so I had to come up with a routine for that like weeks in advance prior to the show. And yeah, I didn't feel comfortable at all. Even going up on stage, I was doing my poses, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely ridiculous. I was like, I feel uncomfortable. These shoes hurt my feet. And then we get to the mandatories. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't so bad because I'm just standing here posing. And overall, I got second place for my first figure show. So I was super, super excited for that. And then after that, that following summer, so summer of 2012, I did another show. Um, I was actually going through a divorce at that time from my first husband, and so I was just holding on to all this water weight. And but at the same time, I was like, I'm still going to do this show because I just need something to preoccupy my time with. And I ended up doing the show, and I actually got third. And the ladies who got fourth and fifth place, I'm looking at them, I'm like, how in the heck did I get third place? Like, because they were awesome, they looked amazing. And I'm looking at pictures, that some of the photographers took, and you could just tell that I was holding a bunch of water in my legs, my stomach and my back. And I was like, whatever. I was like, I took third, I got through it. So, and then after that, I took some time off. I never really wanted to venture into, getting a pro card or anything. But even then, I didn't really know what it took to get a pro card because I didn't really know a whole lot of people in the industry to figure all that stuff out anyway. So I was like, I'll just take some time off, I'll still go to the gym and lift weights, whatever. Um, so I continued to do that, and then I ended up doing another show, fall of 2013. uh, I did all my diet for that, all the prep, all my workout routines, like all that I did on my own because I had no one else. And I got second again. I was like, all right, that's cool. But then after that third show, I literally got burnt out. I was like, I don't. I was like, I think after doing these shows, like I just want to stop weightlifting for a while. And so on the complete spectrum of bodybuilding, I went and did capoeira, which is an Afro Brazilian martial arts. So I did that for, yeah, people are like, what? Like, what? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you transition? Like, I was like, I don't know. I just wanted to try something different because people that really know me, I like to dabble in a lot of different things just to, experience it and figure it out if I like it or not. Um, so decided to try and do capoeira, and I did that for about a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years or so. And then after that, then I actually kind of was starting to fall out of it. And one of my friends, he was starting to get into weightlifting, which he's never really done before. He's like, hey, I know you've weightlifted in the past. I could really use some help in the gym. If you could just like, walk me through some workouts, that you've done or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that. So him and we would start lifting on it's like Sundays and Wednesdays or something like that, and just giving him pointers and whatever. And just after getting back into the gym, just those 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, I kind of miss being in the gym. So I started weightlifting again. And then in 2015, I found out, like at the beginning of the year, I found out that I was pregnant with my first kid. So then, yeah, so I was like, well, that only lasted for like a month. And I absolutely did nothing during my first pregnancy. Like, I didn't even go out for walks. All I wanted to do was just come home, veg out, either watch a movie or play video games, and then go to bed and wake up, go to work, and just do it all over again because I had absolutely no energy to do anything. And so I had my first kid, September 2015, and then about between 2 3 months after I had her, I started getting back into the gym just to start, kind of reintroducing myself to the weights and figuring out, like, where I'm at. I wasn't really trying to rush into things because I was still healing, and it's just one of those things that you just really have to listen to your body. A lot of these new moms that are new moms that just had their first kid, I've seen some posts where they're like, I'm going to really get back into it 6 weeks after. It's like, you should maybe really consider, maybe not doing that. It's like, it's whatever, it's your body, you do what you want, but it's like you're going to regret it, like, because I've seen just way too many horror stories about that. But so anyway, so yeah, so I started getting back into the gym, started lifting with a friend pretty regularly. And we were doing a lot of heavy training and stuff like that, and I was starting to get my strength back up and getting back to where I was, actually even way better, previous to my pregnancy. And so then the beginning of 2017, she goes, you know what, you should do another show, you look great, you've got the energy. She's like, you might as well just give it another shot. And I was like, oh, like I know what it's like, the prep and everything. It's like, and now I have a kid. I was like, I don't know how all that's going to work. And so then after about a month or so just debating about it, I go, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and bite the bullet and just do it anyway, whatever. But I was like, but this time around, like, I really, really want to do good because I've never got first at any of the shows that I've done. I really need some help this time around instead of trying to do it all by myself. So I reached out. One of the trainers at the gym that I went to, he said to reach out to this individual who has clients that a lot of them have competed, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll give him a shot. So I reached out to him. His name's Andrew Cork, and when I reached out to him, we really only had, I think, maybe 13 weeks to prep. And you know being that I was his like, we've never worked together, so he doesn't really know what my body chemistry is like, how well I react to salts or carbs, or less carbs, or whatever the case might be. And he goes, this is my first time working with you. We don't have very much time, because I think he likes to work with new clients about 18 to 20 weeks out from, if they're really wanting to do a show. And we only had about like 13 weeks or so. So he's like, we really need to get down and dirty and just, get this right if you really want to do well. I'm like, all right. I was like, whatever you think is appropriate, let's just do it. And so followed the prep to a T, did all my weight training like he had suggested. And all the way leading up to the week of the show, I actually felt really good. I mean, my energy levels weren't really all that good, just because I was depleted, and that's usually just what happens when you get so incredibly lean. You just, you're tired, you just want to relax. But really, all that for that week of the show, I mean, you really truly just want to relax anyway. Um, and so then I entered into, I think it was the open. So I did figure. I've all the shows that I've done figure, the figure category. But I did the open division, and then the novice division, or whatever they call it. And I got first in both the open and the novice, and then I ended up taking the overall for the novice. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like awesome, because I've never got first like at any of my shows before. Um, and then at that point in time, I was really thinking about maybe doing junior nationals. And I'm looking at, the time frame, and how much it was going to cost and everything. And I was like, again, I got a kid, and you still have to like pay for all your food. You have to pay for registration, your suit and all this. And so I ended up not doing junior nationals, just because of financial purposes. Um, but then I started getting into looking into doing maybe powerlifting. So towards the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I was looking into maybe doing a powerlifting meet. I think it was like the fall of 2018, like somewhere in October timeframe. And then I actually started training to do that powerlifting meet in October. And then I got pregnant with my second kid. So I was like, well, all right. I guess I need to stop doing whatever I'm doing. So, and then again, I did absolutely nothing during my second pregnancy, like I did with my first. And and then after I had my second kid, then it was pretty much about the same time frame when I got back into the gym. So 2 to 3 months after I had her, and started getting back into it. And it just felt like, you just go all the way back to square one. It's just like weak and not knowing where to start. But once I got a routine down, then from there it was just like, thank God for muscle memory. It's awesome, because all my, like, a lot of the strength that I had previous to my second kid, it all came back within, like 4 or 5 months or so. So very thankful for that. But and then the beginning of 2020, so last year, I got in touch back with the coach again that I had for my show back in 2017. I was like, "Hey, I need some help, because even though I'm lifting really heavy, I'm lifting awesome. I just need help with my metabolism, because after every set that I've done, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I'm panting, and I just can't catch my breath. And like, yeah, I should probably stop eating 2 donuts and an energy drink every morning. So that's probably not good for me. So I was like, yeah, I need some help with my diet. So he started helping me around that time, and all the way leading up to this point, I mean, he's still helping me. We had to do a cut, like a drastic, well, not, I shouldn't say a drastic cut, but we had to cut down my calories quite a bit from, I want to say it was like end of March, or end of February, beginning of March is when we really started getting into it. Um, and so from there, he was just cutting my calories down all the way to summer. And then we built the calorie intake back up like right around the fall time. And so right now, we're sitting in a good place where, no adjustments need to be made. Calorie intake is where it needs to be for my metabolism to keep going. But now I've got so many different people. They're like, "You should do a show." I'm like, "I don't know." Like, and I thought about it, and I would like to do another show, possibly this year. And if it's going to be this year, I probably won't do it until towards the end of summer, beginning of fall. But then, with this whole COVID situation, it's like, well, I know people, like, they have the vaccine, everyone's getting vaccinated. So that way, people who are vaccinated, they're going to be fine around other people, and, just that whole mess. And I just don't want to, work up to a show and then have it be postponed or canceled, because that would just totally destroy me, and then I won't ever want to do a show again. so we'll see. But yeah, up to this point though, I'm just kind of, I'm still in the gym, just lifting heavy, just trying to figure out, logistics with the whole show thing, and where I want to go. All the shows that I've done have been here in Omaha, but I kind of want to venture out, to maybe like another state or whatever, to, just to kind of get a different experience of different shows, outside of the area. So,
All right. Well, everyone, we have now witnessed on this podcast. I thought we've seen it all here. The second longest answer to any question I've ever asked on this podcast today. So I knew today was going to be a special day. Tina Brown still holds the record. Her answer of 26 minutes tops Crystal's answer of 21 minutes. But hey, this is awesome. Okay. Anytime the guest talks as much as she does, I am loving it because my job just becomes so much easier. So thank you so much, Crystal. We witnessed history here today. I never thought we'd get another 20-minute answer in my entire life. But it happened here again today. And as soon as we were reaching like the 10-minute mark, I was like, oh, could she do it? And then as soon as there was like the 15-minute mark, I was like, she's still pacing. It seems like we can finally do this. And then as soon as it reached the 20-minute mark, I almost celebrated. But I was like, I'm gonna let her finish. Who knows? She might be able to top Tina. But again, Tina's one is one thing. I mean, 26 minutes, that is almost impossible. But going back to the opening part of when you said, because it brought back a big memory for me when you're talking about like when I was younger too. I remember doing those workouts where you worked, every single body part and you got everything done. And then the moment that someone told you, hey, you can train like body specific days, it's like my mind just opened up and I was like, oh my God, like a light bulb turn. I was like, what, really? Like you can do that? So that's just one thing. But no, that is awesome again, everyone. And yeah, that whole segment, yeah, that is incredible. And God, it's like, God, you took up a lot of the talking points that I'd have. So this is awesome right here. But I mean, one of the things that we were talking about before, and I mean, it's a myth that I love to bust, and it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram. But there are still so many women that have that fear that if they walk into the gym and, they pick up one dumbbell, they're going to put on, 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And like I told you before, you'd be probably the richest person of all time. I mean, you would, I mean, everyone and their brother would want to train with you then. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started working out? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time today. How do you like to respond to that?
When I first started lifting, I honestly did not even think about that, just because I knew that I wanted to get stronger, but I didn't really know what that all entailed and what it was going to do. And, I was still brand new to it. So I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I just didn't know what to expect. But I've had some women, either direct message me or have even came up to me in the gym It's like, hey, you look awesome. I kind of need some help with, getting a little bit of a muscle, but I don't want too much. I'm like, well, what's too much in your definition? Because for me, too much is like an actual like bodybuilder, like, bodybuilding woman who's got like, gigantic biceps and thick thighs. For me, that's a little too much. But I have total respect for, for those women because they train their butts off, day in and day out to be like that. But, that's just something that isn't for me. um but usually I tell women, just if you really want to work on yourself, work on your goals, just go in there and pick up a dumbbell, whether it's 10 pounds or even 5 pounds, or even if you're just squatting with the bar, like it doesn't matter. People aren't going to judge you, and the people who do judge you, they've got their own insecurities. It's just like, don't even worry about what they're thinking. Just focus on yourself and what you need to do to improve your health. Because, and some of these women, they have kids of their own too. I'm like, think about your kids. I mean, do you want to be around for your kids as long as you can? Because I do, and that's one of the reasons why I train the way I do, is because I want to be able to physically help them if there's ever that need. um so kind of going back to, like, what happens if I pick up a dumbbell and I gain all this muscle? Well, it's just not going to
If you
happen.
do that, she'll hire you to be her trainer, basically,
Yeah.
because you'll have found the secret that, I mean, and anyone would really hire you. I mean, everyone would. I mean, Omaha would become the beacon then of, the health and fitness community then, because, everyone would be like, it'd be like, go and see this prophet that, gained 50 pounds of muscle by just picking up one dumbbell.
Right.
Imagine if she curls it, how much muscle she's gonna put on then. I mean, she might put on 100 pounds then. So no,
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that is just insane. But one thing that I like to add on to that is, because it's one thing that impacts women so much more positively than men, and I mean, it impacts men as well, though, is that confidence boost that working out gives you. We have heard hundreds of stories on the podcast of women who have, been able to make life changing decisions. It's maybe either helped them become more assertive, or just that one thing that you can take from the gym and use to impact every single aspect of your life. And I mean, it's just, that's the one thing that I really think, if you were to preach to people who want to get into shape, that confidence boost, I think it would really inspire more people to get in shape. But how have you personally taken that confidence boost that working out's given you and use it to impact your life?
um so man, just seeing other women in the gym, working out the way they do. Some of them, they just put their heads down and they just get the job done. And just seeing that, like, and being surrounded by like-minded women, that just kind of gives me the boost, to really put the work in myself, and just to do what I need to do, to meet my goals, or whatever the case may be. Um but yeah, I mean, I don't know, all I do is I put my music on and I just focus on the task that needs to be done, and just do it. I don't let outside forces to determine what I need to be like, or who I should be like, or whatever. So but definitely, just seeing other women being in there lifting, whether they're 20 or they're 60 years old, it doesn't matter. Like, just, being in that environment, is truly special.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the only thing that I differ with that is because, everyone always talks about, like when you're getting started working out, have a friend. It makes things so much easier. I'm one of those people where no one better even come within a foot of me when I'm working out, because that's my time where I can finally, like, be by myself and have my own thoughts. Where, yeah, I even in college, I had a roommate who was like, we could train together, and we tried it once, and I was like, I like you, dude, but I'm sorry, we're not doing this again, just because that's my one time where all the stress for my day can finally go out. And so yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. But I also love to talk genetics on this podcast, because let's be honest, everyone's on social media these days, and I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms, I want her abs, I want their back. I almost want to shake them down and be like, you do not understand how they got to that look. You don't know what they did. I mean, some people, like I was talking about, are born just genetic freaks where they have like a 12 pack. I've had two of them on this podcast where literally I'm just like, get off my podcast. I don't want to talk to you ever again. The moment that you said you had a high metabolism, I was like, oh, this person. Good God,
You're like
not
this
one of those,
person.
not one of those idiots. Again, Jesus, it's like my dad has a friend right now who's like 60 years old, and yeah, he could have like 10 Snickers bars a day, and he won't put on an ounce of fat. So it's just like he's one of those lucky people. But on top of that, I mean, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind. They have to train to oblivion to get them to catch up. I mean, for me, my back was the one thing that really, really took off because I had jobs all throughout college of working in warehouses where you got a really nice back, you quit. But I'm also 6'3", so my lower body is just absolutely shot. Where I mean, I could train legs every single day, and they wouldn't. I've always made the joke I could inject pure muscle into my legs, and they wouldn't gain an ounce. I mean, it's just I could do 10,000 calf raises. Don't even get me started on calves, because that's the number one body part, where it's genetic or not. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Oh man, I would say my arms for sure. Because I've always wanted big arms, just yeah, and shoulders, arms and shoulders. So and then so I would say first my arms, then my shoulders, and then of course my stomach. Because who doesn't want a nice stomach? But like, yeah.
Have you found that as you've had kids that it's been harder to get your stomach back, or is it the same, or what's that process been like?
It was actually so actually after having my second kid, it was a little bit harder to get my stomach back together because she was a little bit of a bigger baby than my first kid. And I noticed that it was, taking a little bit longer for my stomach muscles to kind of, weave back together. I was like, oh man, like what's going on? Like I'm gonna have a turtle belly, and so and really they say you don't want to do any crunches or anything like that. You just really want to work on tightening your core at least once every other day or so just to kind of get those muscles to kind of group back together. But to be honest though, I didn't even really think about it all that much because I knew eventually it was going to come back, and I knew it was going to take a lot of work to get it back to where it was. And I've got stretch marks and loose skin, whatever. And and so but after dieting back with my coach again, I definitely knew that it was going to come back again. It takes time, it takes effort. You just got to put in the work, and you're going to get the results.
I mean,
So
yeah, I only asked that because I was a 10-pound baby myself, and my mom is 5'4", so that poor woman,
oh
that poor woman, what she had to go through. So yeah, but that yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, the number one answer that I get from that question actually for a lot of women is that their shoulders were the hardest thing that took off for them. It's the last thing that really happened. So whenever I have a guest on that says that their shoulders really took off, I always got to ask them because I will get killed in the comments down below saying, "Ryan, you have a guest that has really nice shoulders and you didn't ask her what she does for her shoulders." I've been working my entire life to get my shoulders to grow and nothing's really happened. So what does a shoulder workout look like for you in order to get those shoulders? Because I mean, yeah, everyone's wanting to know really.
yeah, yeah. So I actually train shoulders twice a week. So I train them twice a week. The so at the beginning of the week, like I usually train shoulders every Monday. Unless something happens and I'll train them on Tuesday. But it's always at the beginning of the week, and I train them hard. So my very first lift that I do is some sort of press, whether it's dumbbell press or a machine press or barbell press, whatever. So I'll usually do a few warm up sets, and then I'll get into like the heavier weight. And what I'll normally do is with my last set, and I don't do this all the time, but some of the time I'll, just rep it out until I can't go anymore. I'll wait for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'll try to do the same weight, for maybe half the amount of reps, maybe more if I've got the energy. And then I'll just do a drop set within that set, if that makes any sense. So yeah, so I always start off with some sort of shoulder press, and then after that, it's usually some sort of lateral movement. And then after that, I throw in supersets or whatever the case may be. And then the second time I train them in the week, I might either actually train them by themselves, or else I'll train them with a back day. Because I mean, when you're doing back, you're also kind of hitting the rear delts as well. So, but for me, it all kind of depends on, my mood and my energy, if I, really want to combine the two or just do shoulders. So, yeah. So if you're really wanting to grow your shoulders, I suggest, train them at least a couple times a week.
That's the number one thing that I tell people. It's like, yeah, you're gonna need to do it more than once, and you're also gonna need to work your all three parts of your shoulders. Which I mean, I love whenever people come up to me and they say, "Oh, I'm training shoulders," today," and I go, "Oh, what part?" They just go, "Oh, the shoulder part," and I'm like, "Oh, what part? Your front, medial, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm just doing the shoulder raises," and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, just do your thing then." I don't want to put too much information in their head at once and confuse them, but yeah, everyone just got to realize that, yeah, there's more than one part to your shoulder. So if you get a really big front part of your shoulder, I mean, it's not going to really your medial and your rear is, I mean, it's not going to do that much. So yeah, but
Right.
that is awesome. And I mean, one thing that's talked about a little bit, but it's not talked about, I think, as much as it should be, is the nutrition aspect of this sport and this lifestyle. Because I mean, it's 80 to 90% of the results that you're going to see. And I still have friends to this day who, God bless them, they think that they can go at Burger King, 3 times a week, and they'll still be in shape. And it's like, well, yeah, because we're 25, but call me in 10 years and let me know how that's going for you. But what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you really started taking things seriously, and how has it evolved as your career in this sport has gone on?
Yeah. So one of the main big things for me was to eat often throughout the day. That was my biggest thing that I had to try to conquer for several months, because again, I was a college kid. I was freaking eating Pizza Hut and ramen noodles and Pop Tarts, all that fun stuff. And so again, when I got with that guy back in 2007, and he told me that I need to at least try to eat every 3 to 4 hours. He kind of gave me an idea of how much protein I needed for every single one of those meals, how much carbs, fiber, all that. And so that really kicked off in 2007. I still had a really hard time trying to fit in, even just like 4 meals, just because I was so busy all the time. But I got it down to where I was able to at least eat five. Um, and then from there, I mean, it actually just kind of grew into my daily routine after a few months of, just finally getting it down. And so that was always my routine up until I started doing, capoeira. That's when I started to kind of fall off because I wasn't really weightlifting. And so then I wasn't eating as much. And you could tell that, those pictures back then, I actually lost some muscle mass. And um and then you know fast forwarding to when I had my kid in 2015, I lost a little bit more muscle mass, because then I wasn't really eating a whole lot. I was just eating when I was really hungry, and that was usually Runza or McDonald's. So it wasn't the good stuff, like veggies and whatever. But then after I had her, that was when I realized, I should probably get my diet back in check. And that's when I started, trying to incorporate at least four meals a day, and then upped it to five, and then just kind of progressed it from there.
Yeah, I mean, the eating more is one thing that I really think is not understood as well with people, and I think that's the one thing that trainers should start out with if they want to get people to like join their class or do their thing. Is like, you're gonna be able to eat more and still lose weight and look good. And if only they let off with that, the sky's the limit. But I mean, especially with bodybuilding and with all these disciplines, I mean, it requires so much more of a mental focus than just the physical focus. And I mean, especially with the capoeira, I mean, that's even just up there too. But what's this journey been like for you mentally? Because I mean, everyone's gonna notice the physical journey and just be like, "Oh, Crystal, you look amazing," but they're not gonna realize that's that mental journey, and that mental journey is 100 times harder than that physical journey, and it's just so much more impactful. So, what has this mental journey been like for you?
It's actually it hasn't been too bad. So I mean, with the exception of, while I was prepping, that was pretty hard, just because, again, I was depleted of my energy. I didn't want to do anything. If people tried talking to me, like, it's just like, no, get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you, that sort of thing. So, but, even right now, just like, I'm just going into the gym and weightlifting and stuff. And it just feels like just any other day. I'm a pretty chill person. Even with some of the friends that I lift with, we always try to make it fun and and stuff like that. I mean, obviously when we're actually like lifting, we try to really push each other, but in between sets, we try to make it a fun experience for all of us. But yeah, and now especially since I have a couple kids, it really isn't all that hard for me, and I think it's because again, I'm just thinking about my kids, and just wanting to be there for them. So my mental capacity is just get into the gym, get what you need to do that needs to be done, and then just go home and hang out with your family. So yeah, I try not to think about it too much, because then, you start to worry or you get anxiety, or, you're like, oh, I could really be working on getting my biceps bigger or whatever. So yeah.
You're talking to a gym bro here, so anytime you talk about arms, yeah, it's just like, yeah, oh, I could be curling right now instead of doing this podcast, man. I could do so. No, I totally get that. But I mean, two of the questions that I also love to ask is that the most important thing when it comes to this lifestyle, and I don't care what anyone says, is sleep. I mean, it's far and important. I mean, anyone that disagrees with me on that, I always tell them pull an all nighter and then try and go to work out and tell me how that works out. I mean, I did that twice in college, and the first time I was able to get through the whole workout, but I was horrible, and I only did like 75% of what I was normally doing. And then the next time, I lasted halfway through and I was like, yeah, screw this, I'm done. And, especially being a mom of two, I can guarantee that your experience with sleep is probably a little bit harder than my experience with sleep. But what's like the recommended amount that you try to get? Because I mean, I've had people on this podcast who can function off of 4 hours. I call them crazy. And I've had people that can function off of like, they don't need to get at least like 10 hours. But where do you fall on that? And is there anything that you do that really helps you achieve that?
I usually try to get right around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So, the standard recommendation. There's going to be some nights where, so I'll usually put my kids to bed like right around 8:30 or so. And then I'll actually take an hour after they go to sleep, time for myself, whether it's like, I want to read a book, or I want to play some video games, or, whatever the case may be. And then but I have a limit to where I try to get into bed by about like 9:30, 10, somewhere in there. If I don't feel like I'm going to be able to fall asleep as soon as I hit that bed, I'll usually take a little bit of melatonin, just to kind of help me sleep, so that way I know that I'm going to at least get 6 to 7 hours of good sleep. So yeah, because I agree. Sleep is a huge factor.
Oh my god, you're talking to the king of meltdown here, because like literally last yesterday, or like the past 2 days, I'd only gotten like like 4 or 5 hours of sleep both nights, so I was literally dead. I mean, I did a podcast yesterday, and I was just, you could even tell like my eyes were just shot. And then last night, I went to bed. I'm a night owl normally, so I'm going to bed around like 2 or 3. I'll be editing these podcasts, so last night I was in bed around like midnight, and I got up literally like an hour before we did this podcast, so I got like a full like 10 to 11 hours. So I'm feeling which is the one thing that I love about sleep, is that you can go such a long period of time without getting good sleep. All you need is one night to really recover, and then you're set, and everything's back to normal. So that is awesome. But I mean, another question. I mean, my trigger word is cardio. I hate it more than life itself. I mean, and when I say cardio, I mean like actual running. I mean, I could walk on my treadmill for like 80 minutes, which is what I do right now, because I put on a little bit of COVID weight like everyone else has. But what is your relationship like with cardio? Because unfortunately, when you do agree to do any sport with bodybuilding in it, I mean, you are signing a deal with the devil kind of with cardio.
Right, right. I'm actually supposed to be doing 20 minutes of cardio, but I'm not. Um, I know I'm such a bad person, but I never really did cardio. The only times when I was actually doing cardio is when I was, prepping for my shows. I would do, I think I would usually do like right around or try to do right around 40 minutes of cardio, but I couldn't just stick to doing one thing. So I'd either like do an elliptical, and then I'd move to a bike, and then I move to a stair stepper, and then I might move back to the elliptical, just because like for me it's so boring. It's so boring. And actually my left knee is a bum knee, so I can do running. I mean, I can do sprints, but I just can't stay in one fixed position and just jog, because then it irritates my knee. So I've got to do things like, go on a bike ride or something like that. So, but yeah, I don't like cardio.
Oh my god, like I need to have a movie running. I need to have something going on just to be able to get it done because yeah, I'm one of those people too where it's like you need to be entertaining me some way. But yeah, bike rides for me are my thing too. But yeah, I just yeah, it is just absolutely ridiculous. And if someone were to walk up to you and say, you know, Crystal, we made the decision, you can change one thing about, you know, the health and fitness lifestyle in general, and everyone would go along with it, would be one thing that you'd like to see changed.
Oh man. One thing I'd like to see change is um shoot, that's a really good question. I would, I guess the one thing that comes to my mind is just not um just don't judge people. I mean, you know, everyone has a place in their life where, they're especially like if a person's depressed or whatever, you just don't know that, and they're in there, trying to bust their butts and, try to make it for themselves. And and others are just, I could see others judging, because that's just human nature. People like to judge others, and I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of that. But I mean, outside of that, like, I don't really know. I don't really know of anything else. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, for me too, I mean, it's like get rid of cardio. That'd be my one thing. But you know, hey, that's a whole different thing. But I mean, talking to especially female bodybuilders. I mean, let's be honest, you're not the average looking woman. So like when you're out in public, if you're out in public like just the way you are right now, I sort of compare it to being like a mini celebrity. Where I mean, you're gonna get people's attention just because it's something that not of the normal that they see, and you know, it's just human nature when they see something to be like, oh wow, that's interesting. So what has this been like for you? Sort of getting used to the fact that I mean, yeah, you are gonna get more stares. You're gonna get a lot more of attention. What has that journey been like for you? Just sort of realizing that you're like, hey, I'm going to draw a lot more people's attention.
um, again, it's something that I don't really think about. I mean, I know that, and I do notice it, especially if I go to Walmart or, something like that, and I see a few people stare at me. They might stare at me for like a few seconds and then get back to what they're doing. I'm just like, whatever. I've even had one person come up to me and ask me if I was in track. I go, no. They're like, well, you look like you got some track legs. I'm like,
Little big for track, I think. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I don't know what track legs are, but I appreciate the compliment. So, but yeah, I like the way I look, and again, I know that I've gotten some looks before, and even got some people come up to me and ask me like what my regimen's like and stuff like that, and I tell them about it, and then I just go on about my day, and then I just kind of forget about it. So
Wait, well, hey, that's the great way to do it because yeah, some people really do struggle with it, and other people, you know, they're able to, you know, just and you're gonna get so much more compliments, I think, than negatives too, which is what I really think like a positive thing in this lifestyle as well. But I mean, if we were to talk to a year from today, where would you like to be at in your, you know, your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved if we were to talk to you a year from today?
yeah, so I mean, eventually I'd like to do another show for sure. Again, I just don't know if it's going to be this year or next year. But then again, even if I don't end up doing a show, I still want to progress in my strength training, because I have been keeping track of how much I'm doing of something, and what I want to get to, and and even with that, I know after a while, I'm going to probably gain a little bit more muscle mass, because that comes along with, building strength. You're That's just bound to happen. So, a year or two now from now, I might be a little bit bigger than what I'm in right now, which I'm totally fine with. But yeah, it's just time will tell.
We might need to get a bigger screen to fit her in, you know, but that's totally fine. You know, I can get a bigger camera or something like that. No, I mean, I had Andrea Shaw on who just won the Miss Olympia, and yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna need to get a bigger because she was taking up like the whole screen. So I was like, yeah, that's awesome. But again, yeah, that is just so great. And before we wrap things up, Crystal, is there anyone that you like to give a shout out to?
Oh man. So my first shout out would be to my husband, for just, putting up with me and my meat-headed mind. because whenever I come home, he's usually home, and he's like, "So, what'd you train today?" I'm like, "Oh, I did back today." So, so my first shout out has to be to him because he puts up with me, and but then again, he's my biggest supporter ever, and he knows that I'm in it to and for health reasons and whatnot, and just to be healthy. And then I would say, my health nutrition coach, Andrew Quirk. Again, we've been working together for over a year now, and he's just been awesome. Like, he just knows the human body so well, and everything that we've done up to this point from last year has just been awesome. I've never felt better. I can actually get through my workouts without huffing and puffing, and and he rewards me, if I'm sticking to my program to a T, which is awesome, because you need those every so often. You need a cheat meal to stay sane. So um and then, of course, all my training buddies that I train with, even though there's like three or four of them, so it's not everyone, but especially there's a couple that that I'll train with at least once or twice a week, and they're awesome supporters too, and very encouraging. Um and yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's awesome. And again, you guys, we cannot wish Crystal any more luck than, I mean, possible, because I honestly, yeah, I think you're going to do great. I'd love to have you on again a year from now. And like I said, whenever I've guests that talk as much as she does, I just absolutely love it. So you're automatically going to be on the list to come on again, because, you do all the work for me, and it just makes my job so much easier. But everyone, go and give her a follow. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. But buyer beware. I mean, you will get inspired to get in shape and, put down those Twinkies and get off the couch. So, I mean, just be prepared for that if you do. But again, Crystal, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and talking with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me. This was awesome and fun.
I really appreciate that. That's my goal in this podcast. And again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.